Wisdom sharing. Hello and welcome here on Ghostmodeling. Today I'll show you my way, and there are quite a few, to imitate some rusty steel plates. The method is very simple and it only takes a few steps and the thing is already done. We take an average styrene sheet and turn it into this. I like to keep it simple, so we take a few simple ingredients that I think the most of you have lying around. And then we start. Damia putty and Damia cement. I think this is the normal one. I don't use the super thin stuff for this. I'll tell you later why. Some Damia dark iron. Some Vallejo metal color burnt iron. It's an acrylic one. Some Damia X11 chrome silver. That's a pretty good color. And my new favorites, pigments, track rust. Some good old pigment fixer. And streaking rust effect from ammo. We start with the texturing. We use Damia putty and Damia cement, and we mix everything until it has a slightly liquid consistency, not too thin and not too thick. The super thin cement stuff evaporates too quickly, and I don't want to be in a hurry. This here is a hobby and not my job. I take a rigid brush, in my case a cutted pointed brush, and start tapping the whole surface. And when this is done, I work over everything again to make the structure a little more rougher. I think it's the right word, roughness. So then we have to sand down the edges of the structure a little bit. Then we use our Damia dark iron and we coat the surface with a thin layer to get our basic tone for our rusty steel plate. In the next step we use Vallejo burnt iron and a sponge and tap it on the surface. We use this to get a random pattern. The sponge should not be too wet or too dry. Now we take a sponge and some Damia chrome silver, a light amount of it, and tap it slightly on the surface. Just some tiny dots to highlight some specific areas, not too much. So this is my favorite part of this technique. The pigments work fine and it's hard to overdo this effect. We take a soft brush and apply the pigment powder on the surface. I use the dark areas as guidelines for my rust effect. It's so satisfying to watch the pigment fixer do his work. I love to watch that. A second layer has to be needed to get me happy with the result. The fixer does not have to be fully dry in this case. Just applying and fixing. As next, we take a graphite pen and drop it horizontally over the surface, very lightly, and then polish everything with our fingers. Speaking is hard. Last but not least, the streaking rust effect. It's not necessary, but we give it a try. And the rusty seat plate is finished. I like how it turned out, and now we're gonna try this technique on an old stock 3 without texturing. For this experiment I used an old stock 3 as test direct. This is the same technique as before, only without texturing. It's a little bit harder to get a nice effect without texture, but the pigments will fix this. Here I use the whitewash. It's not so good. I shouldn't have done that. For the next time I use a rust wash with more orange. Should be better. So here's the result of my experiment. I hope you liked it and this kind of tutorial or wisdom sharing videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers!